Okay, and we're live. Man, lots going on, and I ran a little bit behind today trying to get this presentation going. I should have managed my time better, but we are just going to go ahead and launch right into things. This is a biggie, and so I'm just going to launch right into this slideshow. Hopefully that this will work. And let's see, from Google Slides, there we go. Give me just a second here. This is going to be well worth the wait, I promise. Very excited about this. Continue. Allow. And here we go, if it decides to click in, that is. Okay, so this should be, is this in mine? Oh, it's in mine. Oopsies. Just give me just a second, guys. Going to get this slideshow going. I have to do it from a different thing. It was not in the place that was intuitive to me. Okay, let me file save this. Boy, this is frustrating. Here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and pin this on Crowdstrike. Just kidding. It's definitely my fault. But I have 55 slides here, so need to access them. For some reason, I put it in the wrong account. Okay, so there we go. Open. All right, cancel. Let me do slideshow again. My apologies, folks. I promise this will be worth it. Boom, there it is. All right. So it's processing, and then we're going to have that in slideshow form. Oops, we're going to have it this way. It's still processing. I hope everyone is well. Hey, what's up, Brent? Good to see you. What's up, Big 5CH? BlackRock all day did it. So Fink is a Molly. Is he one of the arrogant ones that thinks they aren't stepping down anytime soon by a March 2025 $9 trillion company? Sheesh. Yeah, I mean, it sure seems like it. So, all right, and away we go. Okay, so we're going to start out with the Crowdstrike preamble. So let's see. Hopefully I'm able to. Okay, yeah, I can do this from here. Okay, so it's funny you would say BlackRock, although I don't actually have BlackRock fingered here. There is definitely the stuff around BlackRock being involved with the ownership of that Austin company, which we'll get into. But there was the big CrowdStrike attack today. So CrowdStrike they say it wasn't an attack. What they say it was that there was just a mistake in the rollout, and it caused shortages worldwide with CrowdStrike and Microsoft systems to the point to where like supply chains were messed up, airlines were messed up. And this is very ominous to me because this shows me that they're prepping something massive. And you'll notice the Luciferians in the form of Elon Musk are getting out in front of it immediately. And Elon is deleting his CrowdStrike and giving a hint to smart people to get rid of CrowdStrike because that appears to be one of the vehicles they're going to use, much like SolarWinds was used in 2020. So Musk said, we just deleted CrowdStrike from all of our systems, so no rollouts at all. Almost like he got a heads up ahead of time with that Luciferian, real-time monitoring that they do. So pay attention to this. The Mollochians are desperate after what happened on July 13th and the failed attempt on Trump's life. And so now they're going to really, really have to pump the gas on madness. So this is where CrowdStrike hit. You'll notice the epicenter was New York City, but it hit a lot of areas that the Mollochians would like to attack, like Dallas, Miami. It hit a lot of coastal cities. If you'll remember in the angelic prophecy from a few weeks ago, they basically said the South and coastal cities would be really impacted by upcoming attacks by the Mollochians. And you'll notice these are a lot of southern, like Atlanta, Dallas, right? And then also Florida and Texas are featured prominently. They're both right in the crosshairs of the Mollochians. And of course, anything you're going to do big, you got to hit the coastal cities. So you got New York, you got LAX, SFO. These are specifically for airlines being delayed, but this seems a preamble to a much larger attack. Okay, so what's interesting about it being CrowdStrike is this. A lot of people don't remember, but way back in 2019, or maybe it was even sooner, when Trump made the infamous call to Zelensky that he ended up getting impeached over, one of the things he said is, and I'm going to just go ahead and quote it here, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot, and Ukraine knows a lot about it. This is before the Ukraine war, you guys. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike I guess you have one of your wealthy people, ... I noticed that part's redacted. The server, they say, that has Hillary's emails on it. Ukraine has it. There's a lot of things that went on, the whole situation. I think you're surrounding yourself with some of these people. And he just goes on to say a lot of this started with Ukraine. Ukraine was right at the epicenter of all the Russiagate stuff, the Lucifer, all that kind of stuff. So how interesting that here we have Crowdstrike once again at the epicenter of a major event. Okay. So just keep an eye on this Crowdstrike thing. I just wanted to talk about it because there's breaking news today. You know, the RNC convention gets over, and as soon as it's over, Trump gives this big speech last night, which, by the way, you know, the big thing that happened this week, obviously, was the Trump assassination attempt. But in my opinion, in my inner 11-year-old's heart, nothing was bigger than seeing the Hulkster go, corrupt career criminals, drug dealers. I got one question for you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when Trumpomania runs wild on you? And he tears off the shirt to reveal Trump bands. I'm sorry, but I give that at least a 15 out of 10 for drama and showmanship. All right, so now into the meat of the discussion. Oh, these slides are out of order to my horror. Give me just a second. I'm not sure why that would appear there. Oh, yeah. So I need my notes up as well. Oh, yeah. Classic Ian. So awesome and nicely disorganized. So this is 100% me making a mistake here. My bad. I didn't think I need this document. I thought the slides would be enough. So I got to do it. Okay. So there's two theories I want to cover. And one is, or two theories in the main show, and then a third theory in the Patreon members only show. So there's these now dueling conspiracy theories, right? I actually predicted this to my friends. I just didn't have a chance to get a video up this week. I was just far too busy. And I said, you're going to watch and see how there's going to be dueling conspiracy theories. Right? There's going to be the conspiracy theory that the Dems, aka the Mollochians, right? In this case, pretty good crossover in that Venn diagram. Of course, there's Mollochian Republicans, there's Luciferian Democrats, there's most high people in both parties, although very, very few in number, right? But as a general rule of thumb, you can say that right now the Democratic Party is controlled by Mollochians and the Republican Party is controlled by Luciferians, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should watch my Shadow War series. All this will make a lot more sense. So the Democrats are now, all of a sudden, it started on the peripheries on Twitter, as it always does, and then now it's moving to the center. Joy Reid of MSNBC just said, I'm wondering if maybe this wasn't an inside job by Trump's team to make him look good. And she asked some interesting questions, which actually I will cover here, but then she ignored all the stuff about the Secret Service and so forth. So, the theory that's going around right now is that the Luciferians acted alone to make Trump look good, right? I want to leave today's episode, and I'm just going to end this screen share for just a second if I can figure out how. Well, no, I'll just leave it up. Today's episode, I want to not lead you to a specific conclusion. I want to put out facts and anomalies that are very strange and let the viewer come to their own conclusion. That should always be the case. You should never listen to me or any talking head or YouTube personality or, God forbid, the mainstream media to make up your own mind. You need to gather the facts and come to your own conclusion. So I'm not going to come with a conclusion today. I will say that this is the weakest of the three theories. That's all I'm going to say about it. Other than that, come to your own conclusion. So there's this theory that the Luciferians acted on their own to make Trump look good. It's what the Democrats are saying. It's also what a niche group on Twitter who are black pillars who are surrounded around this particular person called Donnie Darkened. And Donnie Darkened has been claiming for over a year now that Trump is basically a Mollochian. He calls him a Satanist because he doesn't understand the difference between Mollochian and Luciferian, or he's a paid intelligence asset, which I wonder about. And he and some other guys on the fringes of right-wing Twitter are saying true Christians will know that Trump is evil and blah, 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 and he might be the Antichrist, right? And they were pushing this theory that Trump is secretly a Satanist, and they kept talking about the Trump head wound, the Trump head wound, the Trump head wound over and over and over again. And in fact, they had almost exactly the same date circled on their calendar last year. That date came and passed, and then that theory kind of went under, right? And that'll come up later as revelation of the method, right? But just keep that in mind. So there's these black pillars who are trying to convince you that Trump is a Satanist. He's part of the whole great reset. There's no hope. There's no resisting. Just give up hope now. Just become totally paralyzed and crippled with fear, right? That kind of psychological operation that I believe is a Mollochian operation. I think they had this planned at least a year in advance, and they were putting it out there on the periphery in order to poison Christians against Trump. Right? Of course, Christians are also being used by the Trump team, and I'll get into that later, right? So they were saying this whole, Trump head wound, and that it would happen during a Trump rally somewhere in the Midwest even. I think they said Ohio, but Pennsylvania close enough, right? So it started on the peripheries, but now mainstream Dems have to push an inside job conspiracy theory to cover the fairly obvious official involvement on the Dem side with secret security, a secret service, and so forth. And Joy Reid on MSNBC has floated an implied conspiracy theory based on there's no doctor's report that's publicly available in Trump's ear, as though that matters, as though broken glass caused it, which is what a lot of the Dems were saying, back when they said, Trump fell down with loud popping noises, right? Just weird nonsense, right? As though it matters whether it was glass breaking from the shot or the bullet itself. Either way, there's this bloody ear, and Joy Reid was kind of like asking questions and saying, and boy, he stopped for that iconic fist pump photo, right? So the reason they have to do this is because Trump is bulletproof now, and the Dems know it, right? Almost literally bulletproof. And the Dems had to this week, they're already pushing past it, but they had to bend the knee. And in my opinion, Trump has more or less sealed the election. I've been calling for Trump to win on this channel for 2 years, even when it didn't look like it, even when it looked like he was going to get nailed by all the lawfare stuff. I've been certain he was going to win because of a prophecy that was given to me by the angels, where Trump was riding a giant serpent, and he said, the worm will turn. It always does. And he and the snake turned and looked at me, and then they slithered back into a swamp, actually. And Trump had like a crown on or something. I talk about it in one of my Shadow War series early on, so you can check that out where I talk about that. So I'm just going to lay out the facts. I'm not saying I'm agreeing with any of these. And again, this one is the weakest. I'm not saying I agree with any of these or disagree with any of them. I'm just going to lay out the facts and let you come to your own conclusion, right? So it is true that Trump, first of all, there's this iconic picture now, right, which looks eerily similar to Iwo Jima. And Joy Reid said, boy, isn't that fortunate that they just happened to have a perfect photo op like that? Isn't it fortunate that there was the bullet whizzing past him? Also semi-iconic, very important photo. And both of those are eerily like, boy, that's lucky, right? Or divine intervention, if you want to believe that. What is definitely also true is that Trump stood up, and you can find video of him doing this, and he says to the Secret Service, right? And mind you, he has those short little pudgy women, more on that later, in front of him. His face is clearly exposed to the angle of from the crowd, right? If there's active shooters in the crowd, that's not a smart move on Trump's part to not just get the hell out of there. Instead, he says to the Secret Service, wait. And then he does the iconic fist pump, fight. So it's interesting, wait, fight. So this led to this iconic Iwo Jima-esque photo, which is already probably the most iconic photo of probably the last 60 years and probably since this Iwo Jima photo. And it may very well end up being in the next few years considered the most iconic photo in all of American history, right? And there's also the catching the bullet whizzing through the air. I mean, like, what the hell? What are the odds of that? And that does seem almost staged, which is what Joy Reid and the Democrats are saying. And Trump's response doesn't really make a lot of sense if you really thought it was an active shooter situation. Like, he takes the time. I get that it's like, from a political point of view, it's genius. But of course, if you're dead, right, if you're really worried that you could get shot, it's either incredible bravery or you knew something was coming. And so you're able to react in that way and stage that photo and be ready. Again, I'm just laying out what the Democrats are saying, right? I'm not saying I agree with it. Also, the Democrats are freaking out and are pointing out, well, this has caused a lot of people on the fence to come over to Trump. And it is safe for a while for people like Musk and others to openly endorse Trump, where it was not politically safe until this event. Also, corporate donors are now flooding to Trump because they know he's going to win. and because he has sympathy. And again, it's safe to do so. The ones who didn't really want to be part of the BlackRock top-down pyramid, right, are now feeling that it's safe to come over and donate to Trump and safe to back Trump. Celebrities who were already in their minds aligned with Trump, right, but couldn't say it because it was political suicide just a week ago to say it, can now say, I support Trump. We should rally around Trump. And Trump very wisely, you know, he talked about the victims. He talked about the experience. He made a big deal about the poor gentleman whose name escapes me, Corey something or other, who died, right? And he talked about, you know, the people who got hit. He raised a bunch of money for them, and he spent a lot of time talking about that. That's very smart, and that's also the right thing to do. And he also said, whether you're white or black or Asian or Hispanic, we need to come together as a nation. We need to heal. He didn't take it and press the advantage on the Democrats and bludgeon them. Instead, he gave a very unifying speech at the RNC, which is both noble on the one hand, but also like very politically savvy on the other, right? It is both. So now we're going to go to theory 2. Theory 2 is it was just the Mollochians, right? So that whole thing of where it's staged and Trump's, you know, Trump got hit in the ear by glass or a shooter, you can't, there's no chance on earth that even the best sniper on earth could reliably hit an ear from that distance with Trump moving his head without a real risk to Trump. So that particular thing that the Democrats are implying, that his ear is not really heard or it had glass or whatever they're trying to imply there, right? If they're trying to imply it was an inside job by the Republicans, oh, it was a registered Republican did it. Never mind that he registered to vote for Nikki Haley and against Trump and some of the other stuff, and way more on the shooter later, right? It doesn't make sense. The greatest marksman on earth would have a super hard time hitting a shot of intentionally hitting Trump's ear. It's like basically impossible. I have an alternative theory for that in part 2 for members only, but we'll get into that later. So this would have meant that, therefore, for Trump to have turned his head and the bullet to hit, if it couldn't have been a sniper shot, one of the explanations that's very common right now on the right wing, especially the evangelical right wing, is that it was divine intervention that saved Trump. And that's a statement that Trump used to bring down the House at the RNC, by the way. He said it was divine intervention. God Almighty was on my side, right? That would somewhat dovetail into the Democrats' conspiracy theory or the Mollochian conspiracy theory that it was the Luciferians who did it. But they really have no choice, right? The Mollochians have no choice but to push a conspiracy theory into the mainstream for the first time ever. Because if they don't, they're screwed, right? So, let me get the next slide. The police were supposed to handle the building that Crooks was in, and more on his name later. And one went on the roof and saw Crooks. Crooks turned to him and aimed the gun supposedly at him, and then that police officer backed down. There's also persistent rumors that the Secret Service sniper had a bead on this Thomas Matthew Crooks guy for quite some time and was even given a stand down order. I haven't been able to confirm that anywhere, but that's one of the rumors that are out there, was that he was told to stand down and not take the shot until the shooting began. So eyewitnesses told police about the sniper and nothing was done, right? Local police were stationed in the building, yet they missed Crooks bringing up a ladder and a rifle to put it on there. He also had a rangefinder beforehand and went in there and was scoping it out, and they even had him as a person of suspicion and didn't do anything. What? Right? So eyewitnesses told them a local officer climbed to the roof, confronted Crooks moments before the shooting, and nothing was done. Why wouldn't you just shoot him there? They shoot people during traffic violations because someone, reaches for their insurance, but not a guy with a rifle on the roof when the president's there. Very odd at best. So, of course, one of the weird things that happened is Biden said to put Trump in the bullseye. Why would he have said that? The same day an assassination attempt happens, did the Mollochians try and set up Biden so that he would have to resign when Trump was unalived by a sniper? Right? That solves two big problems the Mollochians have in one stroke. One of the problems is Trump. The other one is Biden can't win. Biden might not even win against whoever replaced Trump if they couldn't control it, right? If they couldn't control the RNC, right, and put a Mollochian into place, that would mean that they would need to beat whoever replaced Trump with all that Trump sympathy, right? If it wasn't their guy. So you got to get rid of Biden. They've been trying to get rid of Biden, hence the knives out for Biden video I did last week, right? And so was this given to Biden to say right before an attempt so it looks really bad and he has no choice but to resign? Biden doesn't want to resign, by the way, because he's terrified. He knows the Mollochians aren't to be trusted. He is one. And he's worried that he, his brother, and Hunter and any of their business associates won't be pardoned by a potential incoming Democratic administration. They can't pardon him before the election, and he's terrified that they won't pardon him after the election. So he really can't resign, right? From his point of view, because he knows the Mollochians may or may not throw him under the bus, right? Like he could easily see a scenario where the Democrats are able to somehow win the election, and then they just throw Biden under the bus as a sacrifice after they've clinched it, and they have a different person. They go, oh, well, yeah, Biden was a corrupt. Throw him under the bus. He's worried about that, so he's not willing to let go. This statement actually put Biden in the bullseye, and it was very dangerous for him. So did the Mollies try and do two birds with one stone by tarring Biden with the brush of this remark? It kind of looks like it. So the Secret Service was weirdly given DHS employees instead of Secret Service trained professionals, hence the two pudgy and very short women who couldn't block a clear view to Trump's head, one of whom struggled to holster a gun over and over. She tries to put it away and she can't. That is not someone who's trained in firearms. I don't care how rattled you are. That is not someone trained in firearms. And you can tell a stark difference between the men with sunglasses on, who are all like 6'3" and above, to fence in Trump, and those two short, pudgy women. They didn't know what they're. I mean, one of them's like clearly overweight and probably in her 40s or 50s. What? That is not a Secret Service. I wouldn't feel comfortable with a 6'3" man in his 40s or 50s who is pudgy being in the Secret Service. But a woman who's like 5'2"? What? So this could have left Trump open to additional snipers, and more on the additional sniper possibility in part 2 of the live stream, where we go into the third option, which I will, well, I'll wait to the end. I don't want to spoil that. So Secret Service was stripped from Trump for a nearby Jill Biden event. What? So Jill Biden was doing something, I guess, in Pennsylvania or a surrounding state, and some of the Secret Service that should have gone to Trump was rerouted to be with Jill Biden. So it's, again, that classic JFK style stripping of Secret Service, or with Abraham Lincoln, stripping of security before an assassination attempt. In the case of JFK and Abraham Lincoln, of course, successful. Another very weird anomaly is that in an unprecedented move, CNN live streamed the Trump rally. Why would they do that? Why would they give a voice to Trump to be able to say all these things that might resonate with voters, right? Unless, of course, they wanted to JFK traumatize the country in classic Mollochian brainwashing MKUltra style, right? Like they did with JFK, but even worse, or 9/11, but even worse, right? And then they could spin whatever narrative they want. They get that image of Trump's head going boom that they wanted, right? That would have made exultant the really brainwashed, like deluded lefties who are like orange man bad and Trump derangement syndrome. And it would have scarred and shocked the psyche of everyone else watched it. And it could have kicked off a civil war. Had Trump died last Saturday, there's a very high chance that other violence would have come from that. So this all happened days before the RNC, which would have led to chaos and made it easy for a Mollochian-controlled Republican puppet to replace Trump. I don't think that that's an accident at all. And then the biggest smoking gun of all, Austin Capitol, which is connected to James Baker III, right? He was Secretary of State, and he was also Chief of Staff for H.W. Bush. He's basically the Bush family consigliere. Austin Capitol shorted Truth Social to the tune of 12 million shares and then said it was an error. And who owns them? BlackRock. Thomas Matthew Crooks weirdly did a video a couple of years ago for a BlackRock teacher investment program. He was there in the foreground. which a lot of times people who make it into media related to a company or whatever are people that can be MK Ultra, right? Think about like Britney Spears, right? All these different people. I can't think of what her name, that one, Katy Perry, right? She's had some weird glitches, and some of these other celebrities who have had meltdowns, right? Lindsay Lohan, right? Who are clearly abused and clearly under some kind of mind control, right? Kanye West seemed to be under it at one point and has maybe escaped it. So very odd that Thomas Matthew Crooks was in a BlackRock commercial. Austin Capital is owned primarily by BlackRock and Vanguard. I guess that's not too weird. Those guys own everything, right? But that connection with the commercial is odd. And it makes me think that BlackRock's in big trouble after this, because I'm pretty sure that BlackRock does have a hand in what's happened here, right? I can't remember what it was. There was something that happened this week. There's been so much this week, I haven't been able to track it all, despite my 55 slides here. But BlackRock's fingerprints are on it, like Big 5CH said. So there it is. A Texas-based wealth management firm has apologized for a clerical error. Ding! A clerical error resulting in 12 million put options bought. Oh, yeah. And I'm sure if Trump had died, you would have accidentally hit the cash out button on those options as well, right? Right? When they're in the money? Yeah, exactly. You're lying. So a massive short position on shares in Donald Trump's social media company just before Saturday's assassination attempt. The Security and Exchange Commission filing by Austin Private Wealth dated July 12th showed the firm had shorted 12 million shares in Trump Media and Technology Group Corporation via put option, which sparked a frenzy of conspiracy theories after the unusual trade was highlighted by a number of social media users. Yeah, conspiracy theorists, people who are able to put together two sets of data and come to the correct conclusion that something's rotten in the state of Denmark here. So this Trump stock Truth Social thing, right? And also actually Rumble, which I'm going to try to live stream on Rumble in the second half as I start to move over to a more free speech oriented platform. We're also shorted by this investment firm, and it has connections again to James Baker III, the consigliere of the Bush family. His law firm, we'll get to that in a second, spoiler. His law firm, a partner from it, was infamously back in the day on a duck hunting trip with Dick Cheney. It was during a period of time when there was a tug of war between Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld on one side and H.W. Bush and the forces he represents on the other side, and what seems like an internecine conflict between the Mollochians. Two different Mollochian factions were controlling over who got to puppet George W. Bush, and eventually H.W. Bush won. But not before Dick Cheney shot this guy in the face during a duck hunting incident, a hunting accident. Ding! Right? So H.W. Bush, for whom James Baker III worked for his whole life and was in his cabinet in two different very influential positions, right? He's the one who is very strongly connected to this Austin, what is it called? Austin Private Wealth. Now, H.W. Bush made a Sicilian death gesture of some sort of very specific to Sicilians, right? Mafia, very interesting. Former head of the CIA doing this, right? And of course, the mafia were for a long time the direct criminal enforcers, not the financial crimes, right? That was the Khazarian mafia, but the criminal enforcement wing, right? Like the leg breakers of the Venetian black nobility. So for H.W. Bush to make a Sicilian death gesture after Trump trounced Jeb Bush in 2016 is very interesting. Keep in mind, when Bush died, there was the infamous incident where there were funeral letters, right? Where the Clintons, the Obamas, Biden, and George W. Bush all received a little envelope. And there were varying degrees of like pretty intense emotional response. Obama looked really upset and was frowning, and clearly the gears were turning. H.W. Bush was just like kind of accepting. But Biden and especially Hillary Clinton freaked the fuck out at the contents of these letters. Nobody knows what it is. The claim is that it was a letter from H.W. Bush that said, "They have everything. I'm sorry, George." meaning that the Luciferians had all the dirt on what the Mollochians were up to. It caused visible panic in Hillary Clinton. Visible panic. And that's a woman who's fairly steely nerved. And for her to be panicked to that degree, there was something major in that letter and something she didn't expect. And that was very upsetting. So that's actually that slide there. So we are actually wrapping up here in part 1. Part 2 is going to be quite long. And so there's going to be quite a lot in it. And so in part 2, we're going to talk about the possibility of a Luciferian plan nested inside the Mollochian plan. As in the Luciferians caught wind of the Mollochian plan to off Trump, and they dropped their own psychological fifth generational warfare operation inside of the Mollochian operation. As well as there's going to be a lot of esoteric signatures around the events of July 13th, as well as an astrological connection to July 13th and the J6 January 6th event. And so here's a little teaser for part 2. This is the hat Trump was wearing. 45, 47, right? He's going to be the 45th president. He's going to be the 47th president. No big whoop. But in numerology, what do those numbers resolve to? 4 plus 5 equals 9. Dash 4 plus 7 equals 11. That hat literally reads 9/11. Mind you, Trump is one of the first people to call out some questions about 9/11, literally on 9/11, calling into television shows in New York and saying that looks like a controlled demolition to me at one point, and he had questions. So yeah, there it is. So for those of you who are interested in viewing part 2, so I'm going to make this explicitly clear because I've been very clear, but somehow people aren't hearing this. For $11 a month, you can join on an ongoing basis the Patreon members, right? That's less than $3 a week. That's less than a price of probably even black coffee, let alone a barista coffee. Or if you've not yet done a free trial, you can sign up on Patreon for a free trial, and you can get this part 2 where I'm going to talk about the astrology behind the attack and how there's signatures of the Mollochians in it, and also how there's signatures of the Luciferians in this event in a major, major way, and some of the esoteric hints, some of the numerology hints, and some of the astrology hints. And I'm going to lay out the third option, right? It wasn't just the Mollochians. It wasn't just the Luciferians like the Democrats claim. It was that the Luciferians, always being 3, 5, 10 steps ahead of the Mollochians, they caught wind of this Mollochian assassination attempt, and they dropped their operation right in the middle of it, as they've done so many times in the past. You know, grabbing the coattails of the Mollochian operation and subverting it from within and taking it in a completely different direction. So that is it for part 1, and part 2 will be very shortly for Patreon members. There'll be a link put in the video below, and you will be able to, like I said, if you're not already a free, if you haven't already used up your free membership, you can get free membership and get access to part 2. And we're going real deep in part 2 for members only. So much love. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you soon. And there'll be a link on the Patreon site, patreon.com, White Lotus of Light. Thank you, and see you guys soon. All right. It'll be about 10 minutes for Patreon members, maybe 15. All right. See you then.